while ago. Okay. Yeah.
Well, look.
Yeah,
at
I'll
that.
say that about
We're
a lot
live.
of things in my life.
Greetings, world, and greetings, Seven Spot. It's time for another weekend Blat. And boy, do we have something special for you today. This is our post-Christmas and prior to New Year expose. And here's our show topics, if you guys are into it. But first, we get started. Before I get started, I'm going to introduce John Minion. Say hi.
Hi.
Chris Hollier. Say hi.
Hello, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody, by the way.
Trevor R. Say hi.
Yeah, this is going
Trevor
to get confusing.
Say hi.
Just call me Oscar.
Okay, Oscar. That's the thing that I'm going to jump into first before we get into the topics at hand. I do want to blow our own horn because I went completely nuts over Christmas, and I had the help of Not Us John to help me go nuts because he is nuts. But oh, where's my page? Here we go. I'm going to introduce a page so that we can have a peek here, guys. I'm going to do a presentation about the fabulous things that we do at Seven Spot, which we'll start with, where is it? The green and beige minimalist. All right, share. And have a look at that. Guys, this is the Seven Spot Live digital magazine, and it's a new thing. And I'm going to introduce it. I'm going to add to this stage. Everybody say hi to Mark Eliasov, who's just popping in from South Africa.
Hiya, Mark.
Hi, how are you doing?
What time is it in South Africa? Is it afternoon for you over there?
No, it's not. 9 p.m.
9 p.m. Okay. Not too far off what we are in the UK, to be fair. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. What I'm going to be doing, first off, guys, is, and just as I said to, maybe it's great that I've got Mark on with us just now, because what we're introducing is our Seven Spot Live magazines, digital. And one of the things that Mark and John did recently was an interview, and it's going to be part of our next edition of Seven Spot Live. It'll be kind of like a travel log, because Mark has got had a cool car, and I call it a beam me up. Do you mind if I tell us what your beam low cost was about?
Jim, it was a Toyota 3SGE, dual beams. I think it's a Series 5. So it's about 215 horsepower and quite a few torques in under 600 kilo car. So it was pretty fast.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
And how
but
did you manage?
Like you said, it was my car. I've just sold it.
Yeah. Well, I understand. I can understand why a person like you does sell it. You happen to be in the buy, sell, and rent car business. So there you go.
That's true.
Yeah. So you must have a laundry list of past vehicles.
Oh, I do. I tell you, I wish I still had some of them, but you got to make way for other ones. Otherwise, you never have the other ones. So it's easy to say I should have kept that, and I should have kept this, and E34 M5s and 333i BMWs and things like that. But if you didn't get rid of some of them, you wouldn't have got some of the other ones. So that's part of the process.
Yeah. Well, here's a shout out to Paul Morgan. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it, Paul.
Evening, Paul, wherever you are, or morning.
Yeah. So
I've got a question for Mark there. I'd just love to know what shape his beard takes under full acceleration in a Lotus 7 style car, because that's quite. Sorry, that's. I can just imagine it like.
Sorry, that's enough about the Seven Spot Live, guys. But I will say, that Seven Spot Live, that one of the things that I am really chuffed about is we've got inside the Seven Spot Live magazine, we've got a complete show TV guide, if you want to call it that. But it's a show guide, and right now we're populating it with some of our past shows, and we're populating it with some of the ones that are live, such as the ones that are right in there right now. And inside it, can click to see a UK time schedule of when the show will turn up And then if you go to the link and click the YouTube link, the time geo-directed for time in your local area. So we're pretty excited, quite proud of ourselves, the truth of it. So
you should be. It's a good amount of work, Jim, and there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, hell of a lot of work gone into that.
Rightly so.
I mean, both of them, we're focusing on the live as well. It's completely different to hard copy printed magazine, which is brilliant. You know, we've been supporting the relaunch of Car Builder, which is brilliant. And if you haven't bought the new, I've got it behind me actually. If you haven't bought the new edition,
here's one I prepared earlier.
Yeah, prepared earlier. Well, it's nearly 100 pages. I still haven't finished it, and I've got that just before Christmas. So we are completely different to a hard print copy magazine.
Yeah. Number one, just simply we don't charge for what we do. Although I do put in the magazine, if you want to become a channel member for $5 Canadian, which will buy you about 1 cup of coffee in the UK, I think we would appreciate it. Help defer some of the costs of our server and that sort of thing. So anyway, it's going to be published publicly every month, and for our channel members, some of the goodies that we have will be released a little bit early, so the typical of YouTube channel membership.
Yeah. We've got some comments coming in from Paul Morgan again about escorts.
So what do we got here? All those old escorts make Robin Hoods, etc. Now they're worth big bucks, I guess, for a decent shell.
This comes back to you, Chris Hollier, with your Tiger Avon, because the bits you've got of that were worth more than the actual. Well, it's certainly worth more than what you paid.
Yeah, and it confirms my belief that time travel's never been invented. Because if it had been, if I can go back to all the Mark 1 escorts that I took apart in the 1980s and 90s to make bloody kit cars out of, I would have had them all in the shed and locked up quite happily and just decaying merrily for all the parts that were in them. Because I must have taken apart, 50 Mark 1, Mark 2 escorts to make Duttons and Westfields and God knows what out of, and just scrapped really quite acceptable 2-door shells.
I think what Paul's saying there is as well. It's actually kind of like turned full circle, because all these Ford Escort bits that are in like Robin Hoods or whatever. It's the Robin Hoods now getting scrapped, and they're taking all the Ford Escort bits back to put in people that are restoring Ford Escorts. So but I think it's particularly with Sierras as well. I think the thing is, particularly at the moment, there's a lot. I always find it incredible. There's a lot of 2Bs after 25 years of them being since they were first produced, maybe longer. Is that there's still unfinished ones appearing, as we know, like a Pinto's worth, even the basic one, 300 or 400 quid. Same for a Type 9 and a back end setup. So you've got a grand's worth of parts there before you even start. I think maybe I could flog a few of the panels and bits of the car.
The safe Robin Hoods seem to be the Dolomite Sprint based ones, the really early ones, because there's only about 4 Dolomite Sprints left because they've all rusted away. But there's quite a few Robin Hoods that did use those parts, and it makes a really good little kit from the early ones. And now hopefully they'll stay, because we need a few examples of all these cars left. We can't rip them all out and make just to make money out of them by selling all the parts off.
Same goes for the Rickman Ranger, because there's very few and far between of the Rickman Rangers. They weren't a particularly good kit in the first place, but more and more are being bought now to steal all the parts back off them. Mark 2 Escorts, Mark 1 Escorts, because there's none around. And like I say, like you've all mentioned, they're far more valuable now than the actual kit cars in bits.
And of course,
that's a big problem.
And the other thing to roll on from what Trevor's just said there is that, of course, once you've taken the bits at Mark 1 bits out, and use them for whatever you're going to, you then got a shell which quite possibly has got an ID. And of course, not that I'm suggesting anything dubious could happen to that.
You are.
But I am. but hey, look, I found a 6-wheeler that got sold for a Monaco auction by Bottoms that had a dodgy V5. So really, a Robin Hood in like Doncaster is not really much of a challenge.
Well, that's pretty cool. I'm going to drop something in here for us to look at, guys, because
wow.
part of the thing that we are discussing is part of our trip
beautiful.
down memory lane. Is here this year? I promise not to buy another project car, and I'm going to ask everybody, but for their favorites. But before the show, Chris passed on some of the things that he actually will be working on as in terms of projects. So, what are we looking at here, Chris?
Right, in my defence, and I'll get that in first. I didn't actually.
The wife's listening.
Yeah, I've collected it, and I'm going to be building it for a friend of mine. Yeah, it's called a Jagley. The guy's passed it off. It's a one-off as far as I'm aware, but he's found a 1970s logbook for this thing called this Jagley. He's made a chassis, and then he got a company called Panelcraft down in Berkshire to make him a one-off aluminium body. And
I heard of Panelcraft, very well respected.
It is. It's a corker. The body is immense. Yeah. 4.2 Jaguar straight six, 4-speed overdrive gearbox, XJ6 suspension all the way around. But because he's used 18-inch wire wheels on it with Blockley tyres, the proportions are absolutely on the money.
It does look nice, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful car, and it's going to go like the clappers as well.
That's how much that body cost.
Yeah. The body cost him £16,000 to get made.
Seriously? Joking.
It's got £5,000 worth of wheels and tyres on it, and it's got full XJ6 running gear. And my friends just paid £12,000 for the project.
No way.
So it's a no-brainer. It's one of those that I don't care how long it takes to get done. Just buy it now, get it working, get it made, and then we'll enjoy it later.
Well, I'm jealous.
That is going to be stunning. And he's left it in the alley finish. He won't be getting that wrapped then. He won't be putting a wrap on that.
I did say to him, if we're going to put a paint job on it, it's going to cost us another £6,000, £7,000, £8,000 to get it painted. But he said,
looks period.
Leave it in bare alley, even if the aluminium isn't perfect, which it is because it was a professionally made body. We're going to leave it in polished alley with the burgundy wires on it, and possibly a dark brown. He's got a pair of XK120 seats that came with it. He's got all Jaguar dials that came with it. It's got a brown
XK120. Okay, yeah.
Got new radiator, so it's got all the right period parts on it for the price of a second-hand Fiesta.
That is unbelievable.
Well, that's going to keep you busy, Chris. What? Throw something else in here. What is that?
That's my Cobra that I've been trying to finish since 2017, but other people's work keeps getting in the way. So, I'm not very good at saying no. That's the trouble, you see.
I never knew you got a Cobra. We had a quick comment in from Paul saying he loved that Jaguar, but I never knew you got a Cobra either.
It's a DAX with a 4.6. DAX with a 4.6 Rover, Tremec gearbox in it, the Dion rear end, but not the camber compensating front end on it. And I started building it when I was doing Kit Car magazine. This was going to be the magazine project car, and then the publishers pulled the plug on Kit Car. I approached Adam actually at Complete Kit Car, and they took it on to say, right, we'll serialise the build. And then about a year into it, I had a heart attack, and that sort of slowed things down a little bit.
That was inconsiderate.
Yeah,
it was bloody inconvenient. It really was.
Chris, can I ask how tall you are?
I'm 6'2".
How do you plan to squeeze into that thing?
Now this is what I've done. Is I've dropped the floor plan. I've rearranged the rear chassis rails. I've moved the seat back 6 inches. Moved the floor down 4 inches. So I now sit in it and I can see through the windscreen rather than looking at a pimple on the bum of a rhinoceros over the top. I'm actually inside the car.
Oh, XBS.
I know when we were looking, I say we, that was me and my ex, we were looking for a Cobra. The DAX is one of the ones that you actually sit in. You don't sit on it, if you know what I mean. And we did
if you're about 5'10" or under, they seem to fit okay. But you add the extra 4 or 5 inches and they just don't fit.
You mentioned about the anti-compensation as well, because we did a great interview with Gary Sanders and Duncan Cowper, who used to work at DAX, and it was the Ford engineer, wasn't it, that introduced the anti-compensation. But some of the stories that they came out, some of the stories that they came out with when they were working at DAX, absolutely brilliant. The top quality car, DAX.
Yeah, but this one doesn't have the camper comp, does it?
No.
I'll go back just a tiny little bit from here because I bought an unfinished Cobra kit, which was a full body, but it had an old Scimitar SS1 chassis underneath it, which was a pile of junk. It was just dreadful. So I started shopping around for people to supply a chassis, and I spoke to Dax and said, well, I want to build a car. What can you supply me with? And they said, well, we can do you our starter chassis for £995 as a special offer, but we'd really like you to put a Dax body on top rather than this crappy old Cobra body you've got. So they gave me a body for another £1,500. So
wow,
for £2,500, I had a brand new Dax chassis and a body. So it was the obvious starting point. And then I built it up from there. But say, unfortunately, then heart attack got in the way, and then the whole process slowed down. Other work came in, had to earn some money, so it got put on the back burner, and it's been in the workshop 2 or 3 times, had some done to it, and then pushed back again. But this year has to be Cobra year. You're recording this, so you can hold me to it. So this will be by the end of this year. By this time,
I'll come knocking on your door if you don't watch it.
That bloody car needs to be running, driving, IVA'd and out there and being used.
You know what's going to happen next year? There'll be another video, live stream pop-up. Chris said this last year.
Well, that's actually part of the next questions coming up. But I know that Chris has got more stuff going on in his shed too. So what do we got there, Chris?
Yeah, well, I bought this when I was 15. This is an E series Vauxhall Velox from 1954, and when I was 15, I bought one. And I thought, this would be great, be my first car. And I tried to do a roof chop. I tried to put a V8 in it. I tried to lower it. But typical 15-year-old dreams, nothing happened. And then about 6 years ago, this one came up, which was a together car, and it was up and running. And I thought, right, okay, I've got to buy it. So I used it for about 2 or 3 years as a complete car. And then earlier on this year, pulled it in because I was having a problem with the front brake. So I thought I'd just try and check out what's going on with the underneath. Pulled it up on the lift in the workshop, and it was as rotten as a pear. Typical.
No shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wasn't a surprise. So what I've now got is I've got an SE5 Reliant Scimitar chassis and running gear ready to go underneath it. And the plan is to turn it into this hybrid, but also turn it from a saloon into a pickup, so it becomes the work truck.
Hang on. Objection, Your Honour. Objection. Hang on. You were just ridiculing the Cobra with an SE5 chassis under it.
Yeah. No, an SS1 chassis.
Oh, SS1 chassis.
Yeah.
What the SS? Oh, okay, right. Okay, fair dues. I thought you said I thought it was an SE5 with Cobra. Okay.
No, the SE5 chassis, fairly traditional. 2 main rails, a little bit of a pinch in the middle, V6 in the front. Whereas the SS1 had the Ford CVH engine in it.
That was it, yeah.
Chassis made of tin foil, bathed in salt water, so it was guaranteed to corrode in 20 minutes. And the weirdest little shape.
Oh, wow.
So.
Don't know what happened there.
Something broke there.
Yeah, just a bit of a bitch. We've had a question coming as well, again for Paul, about he sees a lot of custom motors on auction sites, but they've got no mud guards on. Yet they're being sold as fully road legal. As far as I'm aware, you do need mud guards, like on a 7. Is that a grey area? Is it a grey area?
I don't think it's a legal obligation to have mud flaps on any vehicle.
No, not mud flaps. Mud guard. What you're talking about is like that first car they showed at Chris's with the exposed wheels.
Gotcha.
I think the thing with I think with the cycle wings, I believe, and there was a guy that had a car in our local kit club that used to come along, and apparently it's knowing the right phrase to tell the police, but also obviously before a certain period in the 1920s, it probably wasn't a legal obligation. But I think there is some kind of loophole that if you know it, you can suggest that to get around it. But whether you get a car through an MOT, I think that's pretty unlikely.
I think it's a construction and use violation rather than a criminal offence. So you're probably going to get a 50 quid fine. So realistically, you do it and you think, okay, they're going to pull me. I'm going to get 50 quid fine. I'll pay the fine. But if you look at how many hot rods, how many 34 foot open wheel 34 Fords are there, and Model
Exactly.
2 Fords with no wings on them, and they're just okay. They're making it work for them somehow.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's pass this idea around the round table. It seems we're having the discussion on projects that you promise not to buy, but what might be a favorite looking into the next 12 months. I'll start. I mean, basically, I've got this infatuation with bike engines, Trevor, and
Oh shit!
And I've always wanted to do a Carmen Ghia with a Hayabusa.
Well, completely balls it up and put an electric motor in it. Be done with it, Jim.
But please, not a Harley engine. Please,
no.
There's quite a few guys. There's quite a few guys like you put Harley engines in the back of Beetles.
Yeah,
and I sort
Really?
of get it. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's quite common.
They're
But I
cool,
really-
but you know.
Yeah. No. There's big. Do
Yeah,
better.
but then they elected Trump. Baseline, they elected Trump. So we're not punching high up the ladder, are we?
Harley bike engines had a reverse in it as well, though, didn't they? I know some of them did.
No,
Some of the bigger
Goldwing.
ones.
Goldwing.
Yeah.
They've managed to put the Harley engine on an adapter plate straight on the back of the VW gearbox.
Yeah.
Ah,
So
Well,
you,
actually,
you give
you
them a
can-
VW gearbox and gear change.
You can get a
everything else.
sandrail differential for a Busa engine with reverse now. So
Yeah.
there you go. 6 gears of reverse too, by the way. So
And
that's always
100. How many horsepower from a booster engine? 160.
170.
170 out of the box. Whereas a Harley engine, 100,
Yeah.
70, 60.
And then it's going to leak oil all over your.
They have better torque because the number of cylinders, though, I believe.
But can we just mention in then, Jim, that Lamborghini replica where you do all the right things and you approach the car in your Gucci suit and you
Yes,
open the
have you
car
got
window.
Well, let's go there because that was
got your-
going to be one of the next topics, of course. Seeing as Trevor, before we go to that topic, Trevor Harmer, what shall we say aspirations towards a toy that you don't have? Would you promise not to buy this year? Not a kit car. Then now you're safe. You're safe.
Oh, okay. So any car.
Yeah.
Any car. Oh, crikey.
Just something to toy with.
Do you know what? I really love the Mark II Jaguars.
Yeah.
And if I had the space and time and everything else, that's what I would go for with the wide wire wheels and so on. They're just absolutely stunning. I love them. Or even an XK 150, XK 120. That's even better.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it would be Jaguar based, definitely. I just think they're iconic cars, especially.
I've got the car.
60s.
I've got a car for you. There was one at an auction I did. It was a Mark II Jag. It had done 1,000 miles since a £75,000 restoration.
Wow.
Wow.
So that cost 75 quid a mile. And at auction, I think, I'm doing this from memory because obviously I've done quite a few now. I think it didn't get much beyond 25, 27.
No reserve?
No.
Oh,
They didn't sell. I think the reserve was 40.
Yeah.
We were also, I'll say, interested in for me. We were speaking to Gary Sanders about how people shorten the XJS rear axle. I don't do anything else with the suspension, but it really screws up all your caster and your angles and so on. And that is basically why they came up with the camber compensation to account for the fact.
I think what he was saying though is that they had to shorten the drivetrain to accommodate it into the Cobra chassis, and because of that, it changed the whole suspension geometry, and so it
exactly
didn't work.
It just didn't handle, so they went down the anti-compensation route, anti-camber compensation. Interesting. I found it interesting. Other people won't, but yeah.
Okay, well, let's move along. Okay, finding my round to it for this year. Well, Chris, you found your round to it. You've made a great big long list, and I'll just toss in that for me, my round to it is I've been watching. Well, my son is some number one son is a carbon fiber specialist with working under contract for the Canadian Air Force. So I get lots of good tips and I really want to make a diffuser that actually works. So that's my goal for this year, and you can hold me to it at the end of the year and say, what have you done?
Have you got a
How about-
CFD program to run on your computer so you can actually design it rather than just guess it?
I don't, but number one son builds computers, and he works with that technology all the time. Yeah. So yeah, that's goals for me. Trevor Harmer, have you got any plans for stuff that's sitting in your shed that need to get done with the round to it?
I know, Trevor. I know of one. I don't know if you want to mention it.
Go
Yeah.
on. Go on. It may hurt, but mention it. Go on.
Yeah.
It might have a bit of damage on the rear.
Yeah, just a tad. Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed with that, really, but it's one of those things.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. Well, this is the Grinch that stole Christmas. You might as well tell the story that you're going to the Clare House for
donation day. Yeah.
Donation day. Yeah.
It was our donation run, where we just stop off at a few places and try and raise a little bit more money to go in the buckets before we go up and visit the children up at Clare House on the Wirral. But unfortunately, this year it was cut short due to somebody's impatience, and it's a bit of a strange one because the traffic that was coming we was coming to a T junction onto an A road, and the traffic from the right was pretty heavy. A couple of lorries, a couple of vans, and about 30 cars behind. Several cars went past the junction. One flashed me to come out, but I still stayed there because I couldn't see what was coming. And then 3 or 4 more cars went past the junction, and then another car flashed me to come out. And I thought, well, okay, let's go. Let's just pull out gingerly and see what happens. And as I did do, there was a chap on a motorcycle on the opposite side of the road decided to overtake all the standing traffic at a junction.
That's the big no. If you're a biker, that's a big no-no.
Yeah.
Do you know what, John? It was, I think, as you can see there from the damage, the offside rear quarter and the wheel took the major impact.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can see the tanker there. The tanker had all the cameras and everything, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the insurance side of things. But basically, the scary thing for me, thankfully, I walked away. He walked away. Well, I didn't quite walk away, but he had a dislocated shoulder, broken arm. He was awake.
Broken ribs as well, wasn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is if I'd have been a second slower coming out of that junction, he'd have T-boned my door.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here. He wouldn't be here.
Because he also, looking at the impact damage, I mean, I've had a couple of crashes on my bikes. He looks to have hit you at speed, and I think you did say he landed like 20 feet away. If he'd have T-boned you, he potentially could have taken your head with you.
That's what I was going to say.
As he went over the handlebars. Yeah.
And that was the bit that really psychologically got to me for about 4 days. I hardly had any sleep because I was thinking of the what ifs rather than what happened. And I think you have to go through that process anyway. Anybody does. But you can see there, he hit with such impact, the actual rear axle is bent. That's a jaguar rear axle.
And you managed to limp it home.
Yeah, it's moved it backwards. So your wheel is totally shot. So he's hit you at speed and a lot of force. And as I say, in any motorbike accident, if you're going to get thrown 20 feet over the handlebars, you've got to be doing quite a bit of speed. That didn't happen at 30 mile an hour. You get tangled in the handlebars.
He was about 45 feet, 50 feet away.
Wow,
where he landed. So he was. The thing is, though, is that when you have these discussions with the insurance companies and you try and explain what happened, and when they then recite the highway code. Now, what they basically said is that if it was a car, he would have been completely in the wrong. Right. However, because it's a motorbike, according to the highway code, they're allowed to filter, which they are allowed to filter. However, you then say, well, okay, a motorcyclist is allowed to filter, but he has to do it with caution at between 5 and 10 miles an hour.
Not at speed. Yeah.
Not at 60, but that's a 60 mile an hour road.
Yeah.
And the insurance guy said to me, he says, well, he must have been under the speed limit at that. I said, oh, absolutely. He probably would have been doing about 40, 45. But nevertheless, he took the chance. He knew there was a long queue of static traffic. And he took the chance at a junction.
Must have seen the junction sign coming up as well.
Well, I actually went back and had a look, and unfortunately, it may not have done, because the actual junction sign is covered by a tree or a bush, where the farmer had come along, cut it all the way along, and then got to the sign and went above and around it. So you couldn't actually see the sign.
Yeah.
But there again, he lives, just for the geography of it, it's virtually a straight line from Chester to Whitchurch, the A41. Yeah. Okay. Now, he'd literally just picked his bike up from, I think it was Bill Smith's in Chester, and he was on his way home from it being repaired.
Like service or whatever, yeah.
So he knows that road so well, and I think that's the reason why he took the chance, because he does know the road.
Yeah, yeah.
And he openly said, "It's my fault. I took a chance, and it didn't come off." Now, unfortunately, the other person who heard that was a friend of mine, so it's inadmissible.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. And you've got webcam. You've got webcam footage as well.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah. I mean,
it could come down to 50-50.
Yeah, I think, it's not...
Theoretically, I shouldn't have pulled out without seeing what was on the opposite side of the road.
Yeah, but if motorists flashing all that kind of thing, I know that doesn't count. But I would just leave it with the insurers. There's nothing we can do now. But I mean, the main thing is everyone's safe. I mean, the car and the bike.
That's it. It can be repaired.
Everyone's safe, but on the other hand, how long have you been working on that car to get it IVA'd?
I know. Yeah, I know.
And that was a nice bit of fiberglass work that you did around the wheel well to accommodate that. Now you've got broken axle and you've got broken suspension points, and now you're going to have to refiberglass all that. And now is it going to be a complete respray? I probably think so, knowing Trevor Harmer.
Because of the colour, probably. More than likely. Yeah.
I mean, I know. I was watching out for any pictures or videos of what was supposed to be a great day charitable donation and run up to Clay House. And I thought, it's a bit weird. It's getting late in the day. I've not seen any pictures. So I did message it, Trevor, and blah, blah, blah. And reply back, well, no, I've had a bit of an accident and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I think the most shocking thing for me, and the first thing I asked you, Trevor, was what bike was it? Because if it's a booster,
was the bike hurt?
Yeah, if it was a booster, it would make a great donor. But unfortunately,
is the engine available? Yeah.
Straight after the bits already. It was a Ducati Monster.
Yeah,
which I think is a 750 twin.
Yeah, 750 twin. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, he's all good. He's. I don't think he's out of. Well, he may be out of hospital now. I don't know, but the car's going to get picked up by a specialist over in Stoke, who I found. Personally, I would have loved to have done all the bodywork and everything myself again, but I trust these people that's going to be picking it up. I've got good reviews, and they do a lot of rebuilds with historic vehicles, and they've got a really, really excellent reputation with that. So I'm confident that they're going to be doing it okay.
You know, it's in good hands, and you can just. I wouldn't say forget about it, but you just try and get over this, and not your fault, that kind of thing. And there's nothing more. There's nothing else that you could have done to stop that happening.
No, there isn't. The hardest thing for me to take though is when I had the conversation with the claims handler. It was a guy who rang me up and he said, "Have you got any injuries yourself?" And I said, "No, none whatsoever. However, I've not slept so well for the last 4 or 5 nighs." He said, "But physically, you're okay?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." He said, "Okay." He said, "Well, let me just talk you through it, and I won't go through the whole thing. But the thing that really shocked me more than anything is that you pay your insurance for them to represent you in the best way possible."
Yeah.
And what he actually said to me, he said, "Okay, well, at the moment, he hasn't put in a personal injury claim." I said, "Okay, I can see that one coming anyway." And he said, "Well, I can tell you this, Mr. Harmer, that if he decides to put a personal injury claim in, we may have to force our hands to make it your fault."
Wow.
At that point, I said, "Well, I don't quite understand that." He said, "Well, it all comes down to this is his words. It all comes down to finance and money.
Yeah.
And we can pay the guy off, and it will cost us £10,000-12,000, or we can contest it, go to court, and it costs us £40,000 to £60,000." I said, I don't give a monkeys about the ins and outs. Thank you for telling me this, but it's pretty obvious. However, you're there to represent me and my best interests, not to manipulate. Just for the sake of saving a few £1,000s. That's not what it's about. If he's in the wrong and I'm in the wrong, fine. That's how it should be. But there's no way in the world I am going to admit liability to this accident.
No, well, he already has. So
well, he has. But again, he said people
not
say
to anybody that can actually make a difference.
Yeah,
and it's not. Yeah, it was verbal. It was verbal as well.
Yeah, and I wasn't thinking straight. You know, so we'll just have to wait and see what.
Yeah, I spent all my life not thinking straight, but seeing as we had the opportunity for this break in activity, I'm going to throw in another page for Trevor's favorite rants. What have you got here?
That is beautiful.
What is this? What is this, Trevor?
Well, it was things that immediately send me to my personal ranting red line.
Absolutely.
And sort of, Mr. Holly has been in the industry longer, and I've been hanging around as like a sort of follower. And yes, it was a different time. It was, what would you say? That was sort of mid-80s-ish, probably, wasn't it?
Like late 70s, 80s with the...
I know nothing about it, but apparently it's a Patriot. Is that what it's called?
Is that kind of like
there was so...
Countach replica or something or other?
Chris might have a different memory, but
designed by Adrian Corbett. But when I looked up Adrian Corbett and then Lamborghini, it came up with Patriot. So
I think it's more. I'm thinking it's more Ronnie Corbett.
I was going to say I know his brother Ronnie Corbett. Yeah.
Reason why I'm laughing at that.
Hey, let me jump in here, guys, because the best thing about it is, being that I'm an idiot on the other side of the ocean, know nothing about most of these cars. I immediately went on to Google to find out what I could find out about the car. So I typed in Patriot Adrian Corbett and came up with All Car Index's site, which I've used before. So I looked it up, and they describe it as an exotic road missile.
I think it needs to be hit by a missile. But if we go back to the 80s, when Chris was still in short trousers, there were new.
I was already on job number 9 by the 80s.
Do you remember that era? There were like new Countach replicas coming out almost every week, wasn't there? And I think a lot of them were using the same molds and all sorts, and some of them, the Provas and all that kind of thing. Yes, there are Mirages. There were some good kits in that.
Oh my God, that's its
there was
best.
Even one based on there was one based on the Fiat X19. Diminutive little car. And you put this look-alike sort of thing on top. You think, well, what were you thinking?
What were you thinking with this one? He's got Ford Capri rear lights, for fuck's sake. Excuse my language.
I mean, back then in the 70s, 80s, we had that detective series, Magnum PI, if you remember that.
Yeah,
and all the cars using that were kit cars. They couldn't afford, the budget didn't afford new ones. So I think that maybe spawned this whole interest in, we can knock up a quick Countach replica. There's not a problem. Here you go. And I'll tell you what. Rather than it being a road missile, let's base it on a Beetle floor pan with the Beetle engine in it.
Can I pull a positive out of this, though? It's on a key.
Which Chris, are you sure? Are you sure it's positive?
It's probably registered as a Countach replica, whatever. So you haven't even got to go through IVA with it. If you really wanted to have a bit of an ironic laugh, you could actually get that thing going. You'd have to take the 7 off the front of the price. But if you could do that, you could probably get yourself something that was a bit of a laugh for no money. Because who the hell's going to buy that?
Yeah.
Well,
look at the fitment on the body panels there.
I could do with a new coffee table.
Yeah.
First time round, it was up for 10,000. It did get a bid, but then it got relisted again.
Right. I would say that's worth about 1,500 quid tops. Even though even if it is a Q reg with the right V5 and everything else, if it made $2,000, I'd think you'd done well there, Sunshine.
Yeah. What engine was that? Was that a Beetle? That was a Beetle engine, yeah.
Beetle engine, yeah.
This is not the engine, baby.
No.
We're looking at the front of the car now.
I love under postage. Yeah, I love under postage. It says may not post to Canada.
I know.
Was that specifically for you, Jim?
No, hang on, that's not.
I as everybody knows, I want a Carmen Ghia, not one of these.
That's not a Beetle engine. That is.
No, that's not. I was going to say that's not a Beetle.
That's a T25 flat engine. So it's
this is what I think is the best look of this. I mean, it still has the remnants of what was a back seat. That's hilarious.
Just to cover the rear bulkhead up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that seatbelt's for the front or the rear.
So if you were to break it for parts, there's probably $1,000 worth of bits in it.
Yeah.
And that's about its value.
To be fair, that dash looks half okay.
Have you not seen a Countach?
John,
yeah.
The 1980s have just phoned John that they want their glasses back.
Yeah.
I
don't know where you find these little ranting things, Trevor, but that's amazing.
Yeah.
Jim, you don't have to wait long. They queue up for me, believe me. But somebody stood back from that back in the day, and Chris, I'm sure, can come up with a load of others. But there was some stuff that people stood back and went, done a good job there.
Yeah. These are the people who have no friends.
I want one of those.
This is what you need.
They often have a Labrador with them as well.
Yeah. You need your friends to turn around and say, I appreciate your effort. Well done. But just leave it at that. Just leave it as one. Don't
but the other thing we need to appreciate is back in the day before we had CAD design, all they had was Etch a Sketch, and that appears to be what they used for that one.
Yeah. Wow. Well, moving right along. What have we got here,
We're having so much fun.
Right, Blaze. I can't remember what the original one was, because this is the Blaze F. But there was, what I love. It was originally, yeah. I think I've visited this one before, but originally it was a space frame. I think a bike engined car, quite a compact, little, track day kind of car. And I guess they weren't selling many of them. So, Friday afternoon in the pub, after a few pints, they said, right, what we'll do is we'll cut the body in half and stick each end of it on an MGF and flog it as a kit like that. So you've taken you've taken an MGF, which is I don't think is a too bad a looking car, and made it fugly. Which
well, the MGF weren't great handling cars in the first place anyway. But
but look at this. The MGF, the Blaze F, is a unique sports car, but with all of the benefits of a mass production car. These valuable benefits include modern safety features like ABS, airbags, and crash protection zones, reliability, security, and rigorous development.
I'll give it that it does look unique.
But I do like the fact you could buy the Mark II version where you only put the body on the kit on the front, not the back.
What?
Yeah, well, if you look where Jim's got it, the Blaze Mark II, you only put because it looks like it's been left too close to the fire while the fiberglass was.
I think I've seen this before.
The front is way too low. It just, as you say, just like it's been melted in front of a fire and dreamed.
Yeah, this one does tend to trigger me because I'm thinking, I think the other one is the one. And Chris, sorry, I keep referring to Chris, but you'll remember. Do you remember that Mustang that was based on an MR2?
Oh yeah.
I was hoping that scar would go away.
I can't remember the name, and now I know why.
It was something special, wasn't it? It was just like, I think they actually made a couple of them, and it was sort of Mustang-ish, wasn't it? Because the back was more Mustang than the front. But of all the things you're going to base a V8 engined rear-wheel drive American muscle car is a mid-engined 4-cylinder Japanese sports car.
Yeah. But there's a little curiosity I've just noticed on those pictures. That's W reg on the registration plate, which means
Yeah.
it's actually an MG. That's a TF, not an F. So
okay.
they've used quite a recent donor vehicle for that, unless it was.
I
right
thought the TF started from 2000.
So maybe it's right on the changeover then. It's
Mm.
the very last of the Fs. But I ran an MGF for nearly 2 years, and it had the Lotus thermostat housing conversion on it, so it didn't suffer with the head gasket problems, and the head gasket had been done. And I will say that was actually a really good little sports car. It handled well. The roof didn't leak. It was comfortable. Even for somebody my size, I could get in it and make it work. So if only MGs had grasped the nettle when the head gasket problems started to appear and fixed the bloody thing, then they could have had a world-beaten little sports car, but they didn't, and that cost them nothing. Yeah,
it was never as reliable as the MX-5.
No, but when Lotus used that K-Series engine, and Lotus said, right, we've got a problem, we've got to fix it, and they moved the thermostat housing so that it was closer to the engine, so that when the thermostat opened, it didn't flood the engine with freezing cold water and distort the heads. Fix the problem.
Yeah.
So they used proper engineering skills to sort it, and they proved that little K-Series engine is a great engine. It's very light, it's very strong, it revs like the clappers. Power efficiency levels coming out of it is really good. So it was a car that was killed by lazy accountants rather than bad engineering.
Steady, I'm an accountant.
Yeah.
Well, you should have had a word with them, John. Because that's definitely what caused it. It was people not prepared to say, look, we've made a mistake, let's fix it. And if we can show we've got decent morals, we'll sell them by the shitload. But they didn't.
Yeah.
They stuck their heads in the sand and said,
I think you mentioned, Chris, in Australia, they've got a kit with a speedster kit that uses that same platform. The Outlaws, I think they call themselves.
Outlaws, sorry, not Rebel, yeah.
Dirty Dog or something, isn't it?
Yeah, Dirty Dog, that's them. Yeah.
And it's a 356, Porsche 356, but on steroids. Great looking car.
I've been following the Dirty Dogs. I've been following the Dirty Dogs channel. Brilliant channel.
Yeah.
But I believe that's been scuppered to be sold over here because they're actually having to cut some of the structure to fit the kit.
So you're straight into IVA.
Correct.
Yeah.
I read that somewhere. It might have even been CKC or somewhere they were trying to get them over here. But, you know, if you're cutting into the structure, okay, if you're taking panels off, fine. But apparently you did have to modify the structure, so it kiboshed it. But to be honest,
it's the rear quarters. The rear quarters cause the problem because you need wider rear wheels and you can't leave the original outer and inner rear wing where it was. You had to modify it to give it more clearance. So it's not an unboltable rear wing, it's part of the structure. You're straight into IVA. And you're also up against, you're doing a 356, you've got some lovely Porsche Boxster based 356 or style replicas or Porsche Speedster style replicas, which go straight through. And they are beautiful things, and they're selling them as complete cars. So
Jim, who's the people that are doing the rebodies on Porsches? I can't remember the name now off the top of my head. They were at
Turismo.
Sorry?
Turismo.
Oh, Turismo,
Turismo. They looked absolutely stunning. I know when we saw them at Melbourne, the quality of never mind the exterior. Looked at the interior.
We've been trying to get Mohammed on our show.
Yeah, it's Mohammed.
And you has already interviewed him once, and we tried to go live with him. Just once, or did you do it twice with him?
No, I think I only interviewed him once.
Yeah. Looks like a top bloke, but I'd love to get him to do a showroom walk around just to show us.
Everybody.
Well, because you know, like the whole kit car thing for guys our age, it's still real and vibrant. But for the kids, like Trevor, you said, your kids have got no patience. If it can't be done over the weekend, forget it. You know, they're not going to go in mucking around, ripping a car down to its space frame and then rebuild. It's just not what they do.
No.
Talking of Porsche replicas. Who remembers that blue thing that appeared outside at Malvern in 2023 that didn't appear to be able to turn the wheels? I don't know if Chris actually went to that show.
I've got pictures of that. It looks quite stunning, but
it looked very stunning, but
not many details on it.
How did they get it there? Did they just bring it on a truck and just let it down?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there was some problem. They were trying to get it in the hall, but they couldn't get it either over the ridge to get it in, or get it round corners because it had got no lock on it whatsoever. So,
Wow.
but the bloke. There was another guy there called Mr. Wig doing a YouTube video.
Yeah, I know Mr. Wig.
Yeah.
He's hilarious.
Shot the bits, but in my opinion. But there we go. I did try to have I did try and have a conversation with him, but it was like we I might as well have been speaking Greek. But anyway, he was doing his thing with him, and he was, Mr. Wig. If you've ever watched him, he's very full on, and this bloke was quite sheepish about talking about this car, and he looked very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then we never saw it again. So, but it got potential. It was sort of GT3 RS, I think, based on a Boxster from memory. Someone might correct me.
Almost like Le Mans styling to it as well, with a long swept tail over the back.
Yeah. So whether that'll reappear or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you're aware of the DNA Boxster-based GT3 RS copy, it's stunning quality, absolutely stunning. And you're in the market where he's made what is effectively a kit conversion for a Boxster, but he said there's no point selling kits. People want to buy fully built ones. Harping back to what you were saying a minute ago, people don't want to build anything anymore. He's saying, well, I can sell a complete car. They bring me a box, I turn it around, paint it, give it back to them as a fully built car, and they give me 60 grand. He said, why on earth would I sell a 15, 20 grand kit?
Yeah.
So, different.
Well, I had exactly the same problem with, and again, sorry, Chris, I couldn't. Do you remember the guy local to me down here? He was in Bridgewater, JC Sports Cars. No, it wasn't JC. He did the MR2 based Dino replica, the really nice ones.
Yeah.
And JDE,
DEJ, something.
Yeah.
Like that.
But whichever, it was a nice one just up the road, and I was talking about him to Ian Stent, and he said he got out of doing kits for that very reason, that people, or slightly different reason, was the fact that he could sell a kit for like $5 grand or whatever, all the panels, interior bits, and everything else. But the problem was, he was selling fully done cars for like 25 grand, and it was that bridge between the $6 grand for a kit and 25 grand for fully done cars. So he didn't really want to sell kits because people thought, well, hang on a minute, he's making sort of 20 grand just for putting it together. So, and obviously there's a lot more work than that, but people don't realise.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting that was probably the first steps of it going towards turnkey rather than just, the body panels, because people look at the body panels, think, it's a cheap thing to do, but then you've got wheels, you've got paintwork, you've got the rest of the interior, and it all adds up.
There is another facet to that from a building point of view, is that if you make your own product and you sell it as a kit, you're beholding to the person who's put it together what it looks like when it's done. Whereas if you build the kit, you can be in complete control of the quality that comes out at the end, and the image can go up. You look at Martin Williamson with the Enigmas. He started trying to sell kits at the beginning and realised quite early on that your image is only as good as they bolted the car together. Whereas when you're selling fully built cars, you've got absolute control. You can turn out this top quality product, and you can charge a premium price for it.
And that's the way to keep the doors open when you're operating the business.
A lot of manufacturers are going down that route. Obviously, you look the likes of GBS. 80% of parts in that car are now all built in-house. Yeah. You don't have to go scrubbing around for uprights or hobs or suspension or whatever. 80% is built in-house. And they're now offering complete engine option, brand new engine options and drivetrain.
And they can sell it as a proper brand new car.
Yeah. You just need to self-assemble. Yeah.
We've not worked our way around the registration process and tried to bend a few rules to say it's new. It's actually new, all of it.
Yes.
So it's a brand new 2024 car. It may be 30 grand. That takes out of an awful lot of people's territory. But for people who have got 30 grand to spend, there's no excuses. There's no maybes. It's right.
Yeah.
There it is. Brand new car.
And it will pass the IVA, and you will get a non-Q. Not that a Q plate is bad, but you will get a new registration plate for it. Because as you say, Chris, it's a brand new car.
Yeah. And John, you interviewed Wendy at AK, and what was it they were saying? What percentage of their business is building cars as opposed to kits?
That was at Malvern, and I had a bit of a walk around with Felix, and we were just as we do, just strolling around interviewing people, and Wendy on the AK sports car stand said the majority of queries they've got or builds they've got come in, people aren't asking for kits, they're asking for fully built cars. Mm-hmm. There was one guy, she was telling me about one guy who, I won't mention his name, I think it was in Belgium, or he was certainly on the continent, which is a different thing than about getting cars registered on the continent. But he bought a bespoke built, spec'd it all himself. I think it was a GT40. He got it back and he was driving around with it. And then he saw a different colour one on the AK sports car stand. So he rang Wendy. He said, "Look, I really like the colour. I know I've only just bought this car in this colour." He said, "But I really like the colour of that one, and the spec of that one." So Wendy was like, "Well, do you want to do some kind of part exchange or whatever?" And the bloke to him, I said, "No," he said, "just build me another one. I'll have another one in that spec and in that colour." And that's, I don't know, I think it was the same with XCS Designs, and XCS Designs have now moved to new premises because they're getting more requests for full builds.
Yeah,
and they just didn't have they had the room for the kits, get them shipped out, blah blah blah. They just didn't have the room for, when you got three, imagine a double garage space. If you've got 3 or 4 kits on the go, you're not going to get them a double garage space. So that is why XCS Designs have gone for a bigger premises, because they've got so much demand now for full builds, not kits.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Well, Tim Dutton and Robin Hood never worried about how well their cars were put together, did they?
You're looking at Lidl's versus Waitrose now, aren't you?
So
I think that's more Wish. I think it's Wish versus Waitrose, isn't it? Or Temu or whatever it is.
Yeah,
do volume, or we can do quality. Which one do you like?
I mean, to be fair, Tim Dutton in probably the 80s or whatever, if you do a bit of research, he had one of the biggest selling kit cars ever. Dutton was the biggest kit car seller. How many of them actually got on the road, which is why you see so many projects coming up? I don't know. Has anybody heard about the new relaunch of the Phaeton, the new Phaeton?
Well, we've all heard about it, but the truth be told, I mean, as renowned as Dutton is, they are renowned for one particular point: it's the English Channel crossing. But now their reputation has been shattered by Trevor at Oscar's Garage doing the interview with. Now, tell us about that one.
Charlie Burns. Well, I'll try and keep this brief. The Chop Shop London Garage is a program most of us probably know, where cars were hacked about and by Lipu, a Bangladeshi designer, and Bernie, who was a mechanic. And they came out with these various creations, and some of them were done for celebrities, and others just were concepts. And this particular one was a surf car, which was 2 polos welded together to make a 6-wheel pickup. And this whole series just exploded. We put the first one out, and it did something like 80,000 views. We sort of went, bloody hell, there's time in this. But it wasn't just that. It was also how people all this information just came out of the woodwork about all these cars. And very quickly I got this message say, you need to talk to this guy, Charlie Burns. And I've just recently released the interview with him, and he made this car float. Basically, he said it was sort of fairly crap as a car because it got 6-inch wheel spaces, and
typical Lipu.
Typical Lipu, yeah, Lipu, king of the wheel spacer, as I described him. And
he did like his wheel spaces. Yeah, he
did, and he had 100 cans of expanding foam and a whole pile of Celotex in this thing. And he says, I'm confident it won't sink. Well, I've spoken to a builder, and I hope Charlie's not listening, who reckons unless that foam is all right, but it can absorb water, which is slightly worrying. But Charlie's ambition, bear in mind, this car has been in the sun, the male. He went to the Henley traditional boat regatta, met Ed China from Wheeler Dealers, and also met Tim Dutton, who I think probably saw it and ran the other way compared to his creations.
Yeah.
And but his ambition now is to try and get it across the English Channel.
Yeah, because Tim Dutton still got the record, and it was simultaneous crossing of the channels, and they took 2 across.
Yeah.
I never saw. I know they got across, and that's where the video ended. I've no idea whether they got back again.
Well, I'm slight because I think I might keep my distance. Otherwise, I got feeling it could be one of these things I might get dragged into. But yeah, Charlie, he'd done an SJ 410 Suzuki 4x4 before, and that was just sort of barrel bolted on each end and loads of expanding foam again. But yeah, he's quite a character, and he's done all sorts with it. He tried to take it up Santa Pod drag strip, but unfortunately, because he hadn't got arm restraints in it, they wouldn't let him. But bear in mind, this thing now weighs quite a lot. It's got 6 wheels and there's a 1.2 petrol engine. You know, whether it would have got to the other end is half the challenge. So yeah, I think they were possibly overcautious with the safety there. So, but maybe Nawutcog can sort this out for at Kitfest. You see, that could be a big draw there. You see, get in touch with Charlie and get him to turn a blind eye so he can run up the drag strip.
What is the name of the acronym? I didn't quite pick up on that.
Northwest Kit Car Owners Group, Nawutcog. That's how you pronounce it, isn't it?
Trevor, how is the proper pronunciation of what he said?
It is the North Owners Group. It's a mouthful, to be honest. You can't really shorten it without,
Well, you need a few
vowels.
vowels.
Make a word out of the short.
But yeah, it's on his top, Nawutcog.
Well, you have an event coming on, don't you, Trevor?
Me?
Trevor Harmer.
Oh, right.
I'm just. This is where.
Well, I went big on screen. I went, oh, it's me.
Trevor Rolfe is an event.
Yeah, Kitfest is coming up in April again.
Yeah.
So
we'll be dribbling out some information in the mag on that for sure.
Yeah, I think the continuity with Santapod themselves is getting a little bit better now because since we tried to start it initially we approached them in 2017/18 with the concept of what we wanted to do. And up until Convid, as I call it, we only sort of got one good showing. And since then, we sort of been trying to rebuild it because they had a 5-year plan.
It's the weather.
Usual thing.
Weather doesn't help.
Yeah, it was just... Anyway, with a few members of staff moving around, we've now got somebody else called Nicola who's come on board, who happens to be also the marketing manager. And she's so forthcoming with all the information because before it was very difficult to get this set up because we never knew what was going on with Santapod themselves because they've got their own calendar of the year because every single show they do is their own show. I think there's only one third party show that's on there that latches onto one of their shows. So they've got to get all their calendar in place first with all the European nationals and finals and all this business, and then fit their own shows in and then try and fit us in somewhere. So for 3 years, we didn't know where we was going to be until the last very minute. And it was very difficult to give that information to manufacturers or other kit car owners and everything else as to what, and it made us look a little bit, well, do they really know what they're doing? And to be fair, we didn't really know what we was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, to be fair. But now we've got Nicola on board. If I ask a question, I normally get an answer within 2 to 3 days, whereas before I've been waiting a month, 2 months to get an answer to a simple question. So when a manufacturer asks me, what's this, what can we do this, can we do that? I'm not sure. I need to ask. And then there'd be a massive delay. By that time, they've made other plans. Mm-hmm. So it's always been quite difficult to get it up and running. And with us having it in April last year, it was a little bit early, but The other 2 dates they gave us, you ready for this, Trevor? The other 2 dates they gave us was Malvern weekend.
Excellent.
I think we'll have that. And then, of course, and the other
Then
one was
Newark.
October, which was, Fire and Thunder.
Yeah.
So it was the lesser of two evils. It was too short, April, because when we was told about it, it was January. So we had 4 months to get everything together. It was great. The weather was fantastic. We had a really good turnout, one of the biggest turnouts we've had so far. And afterwards, I had a long conversation with Nicola, and I said, "This is great."
Wait a sec. I have to interrupt. We have a
question
from John Minion, I think it is. John, do you want to read that to us, please?
It's not. Well, it's not from me. It's come from Seven.
Are you sure it's not from you? I'm going to check. I'm going to check on that. I think it's from you.
It's definitely not from me. It's
check the IP address.
I will.
You won't find my IP address, mate. That's been hidden for a long time.
Yeah.
By the way, Trevor, when is it going to happen?
It's going to be happening in April. So it's the 4th to the 6th, and we've actually got from the Friday to the Sunday. Yeah. So we arrive after 12 o'clock on a Friday, get yourself set up, have a great weekend. Yeah. The Saturday is going to be Santa Pod's Run What You Brung and Kit Fest. Yeah. And then they've got the Fast Show, which is their own show on the Sunday.
The Fast Show is coming on the Sunday, and that's with the as that anonymous person asked, that's with the Terry Grant stunt show. Hopefully, will be there.
Correct.
I know he's there.
Oh bloody hell!
Yeah, the thing. This is the beauty of it, because there's so much going on as well as the Kit Fest.
It's going to be kind of like a circus, isn't it?
You get all,
Well, the circus. It is with the Northwest.
It's like a three-ring, Barnum and Bailey kind of a thing, because you got the track, you got camping, you got rain.
Who's the clown?
That's the only thing, isn't it? Is whatever you do with kit cars, no matter what event you go to, you are watching the weather for the last week of wherever it is you're going to go.
And I can't tell how many times we've said that there's an event coming, and is somebody coming, and everybody's checking their cell phones to see what the weather's like, and they'll let me know in 15 minutes. You
can just take Newark for instance. I mean, last year was an absolute disaster. This year we had a beautiful day on the Saturday, and then the Sunday was absolutely horrendous.
Miserable.
It's just one of those things. Kit Fest last year, we had a cracking weekend. It was a little bit windy, but we had good sunshine all weekend, very little rain. The very next weekend, a friend of mine sent me a picture, and the hard standing we was on was under 2 inches of water.
Oh my God!
The very next weekend.
Dumb question for you, Trevor, because I know it's a growing thing. Obviously, I mean, there are teething pains to any kind of an organizational event, but it is growing. Tell us who might be participating in terms of manufacturers this year.
Well, at the moment, it's we're hoping the usual suspects. We're hoping that AK are going to come along.
They loved it. Run the strip. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah.
And DJC.
GJC are going. They're a definite.
Yeah.
they just love it. They love the weekend.
I've been messaging Dan Carpenter.
You can't wait.
They're bringing their new demonstrator car. I mean, the last one was mental. I think it ran 11. I think it ran 11 second. That was a 500 horsepower Subaru engine. But their new demonstrator is going to be even wilder. It couldn't make it for the last Kit Fest with the previous demonstrator. They were waiting for
didn't quite get it finished, did he?
Nah, they're waiting for a sequential gearbox. I think he said from. Did he say Austria? It was somewhere really bizarre that you don't think they.
I know it's 11 grand. It was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money, but going to be a full sequential gearbox, and he's hoping to beat his time. So really rooting for them. Really rooting for them. Yeah.
This is the good thing now, because I'm hoping that we're going to have a static date of April each year now, because it seems to be working well for the Santa Pod, and it seems to work. It's a little bit early for us, but if you remember, Stoneleigh used to be in April as well back in the day. Yep. It was one of the first ones. I remember curling up in my sleeping bag with my woolly hat on, freezing my palms off, waiting for the morning to come. So we've all been there, but if we can get it as a specific date and possibly in and around April each time, then it can establish itself as the first kit car event, live event of the year.
Which is what it's going to be as well, because we're on the back of the Fast Show, or I say on the back, we are with the Fast Show this year, as we have been in previous years. This is the first kit car, a modified kit car show on the whole kit on the whole car calendar. Can't get any better than that. It's a show opener, so yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Can I ask a little question as well of Trevor? Would it be possible for me to use it as sort of a launch point for the little Tiger Avon if I've got
absolutely?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it'll fit in time wise. I can do my shakedown runs. I should be finished relatively soon. Get it shaken down, get it ready, and that'll be a good public launch point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And financially, it's a very good thing that we can do as well. For the manufacturers, because I mean the nice thing about it is that Santapod allow us. We dictate how much. Initially, when we first did it in 2019, it was dictated to us that we had to charge the same amount that they charge their manufacturers and suppliers for the amount of area that they get. So if it was a 3x3, it was something like 75 quid, and you got 2 tickets. If it was a 3x6, it was 140 quid, and so on. And we said, well, for us to attract more people, I don't want to spend. I don't want people to spend that amount of money. It's a donation. So the money that comes in from the manufacturers or anybody that's trying to sell anything and set themselves up in that way, that money comes directly to us, which then goes directly to Clare House Hospice.
I was going to say
Antipod allow us to keep that money, which is fantastic. And not only that, they then donate £3.50 for every ticket sold.
I was going to say,
goes to Clare House.
I was going to say the only reason why we can do this is because it's being donated to a registered charity. So it's completely different to normal people that are advertising or putting a stand up at Santapod. We are a registered charity, and that is why we can do this.
Right, perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
so
guys,
that'll be a spot on place for you, because you actually get all day to go down the track as well on Saturday and Sunday, and plus you can be part of the parade as well.
Yeah, well, what it proved at Newark, it was just really nice to talk to people about the project. It wasn't about trying to sell anything or try and convince anybody. It was just interaction. And you could put the word out about 7-Spot, put the word out about Tigers. And it was just such a lovely opportunity to be able to talk to everybody and just push it forward.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because this is what I want from Kitfest. I don't want it to be an area where people come along with their bits and bobs and their manufacturing cars and everything else and try and sell things. Yeah, I want it to be a festival, and I want it for them to enjoy themselves and not just have it be another working weekend.
I think
that's the feedback I'm getting, and it works so well.
Yeah,
so you come along, if you tell something, great, but you're not there to do that. You're there to put your wares out, get the name out, talk to people, interact. And then, things, hopefully, good things will come from it.
Exactly. I think for me, very important is the charity side of it, which is why we can, we've set the financials up with Santapod in the way that we have. But also we are trying to attract younger people into the kit car industry. Yeah. And I'm working with, you must have seen this, I'm working with Peter Cobrin, He's building the MEV Exocet, and he's building that with students. They haven't got a lot of money. They will be at Kitfest, but we're just trying to attract younger people. It comes back to the start of what we said. Yeah. Trying to attract younger people getting interested in actually building cars. People that are leaving schools at the moment, and we did the interview with Ron Champion, and Ron Champion said exactly the same thing. There is no engineering or building skills being taught in schools, and then we wonder now why no people are buying kits or interested in building kits. It's because they
it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that, John. And
it is.
It's more than that. I mean, the whole idea of this new generation of kids. I mean, Trevor said so himself with his own kids, and certainly even with my kids, even though they're considerably older. You know, if they can't do it over the weekend, if it's not then nobody's going to take a car apart and then put it out on a new chassis and rebuild it and take 3 years to do so. It's just like that ain't going to happen. Just like that's not what the new generation is about.
But saying that, the fact that we actually go on the back of one of their shows, again, is a win-win, especially for the manufacturers. Even if they're not going there to actually sell anything, they're actually getting fresh blood coming through the gate. They're getting young people within their 20s, early 30s,
and
who have modified cars. I
think that you just hit the nail on the head. It's about. I mean, Chris and I have had a conversation fairly recently. I mean, what was your thing, Chris, about the KC word, that kit car word? It's anathema. You can't even use it anymore. So specialty cars are home built specials. Rat rods. All of those things are conjure up. Wow, that's cool. But a kit car, no. Yeah,
you can use the kit car word, but it'll end up getting a very limited audience. It's not just kit cars, and this is what the beauty about Santapod is as well. Because on the back of the Fast Show, you see the Fast Show boys walking over to see the likes of AK Sports Cars and how they've solved their problems and how other people have. I mean, kit cars have got so many different engines in them, turbos, blah blah blah. They can take hints and tips of what we've done, and that is what people want.
Yeah, but that's browsing. I mean, if you're a motorhead and I mean, I could look at a bus and I get interested. Is that a bollard?
Really, Jim? Really?
I could.
I'd leave it there if I was you. Just leave it there.
I'm very into bus conversions, by the way.
It's just the fact that you mentioned you get a bulge.
Excuse me.
I'm going to get invited back.
Oh, dear me.
Guys, we've been on for an hour and 16 minutes again. And now is at the time of year where we kind of reflect on all of the good things that have happened over the last year, all of the mistakes that we did again for last year. But I do want to say to my good buddies, Trevor Harmer, John Minion, Trevor Rolfe, and Mark Eliasov, thank you so much for joining me today. But there's a high cost, low cost. What does he got there? A bunch of my students come to see CAD project. Oh, that's cool. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, we could do with a couple of people coming down with CAD projects.
Yeah.
There was meant to be somebody coming last year, or sorry, it's this year, isn't it? Crikey. And unfortunately had a health problem with somebody in the family, so he couldn't actually make it in the end, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
But I thought that popped that up as a ending thing for this.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much, John, for looking at that side of it. But we're looking forward to an awful lot of good things for us all, health-wise, prosperity-wise, and good vibes in the family, whatever you want to call it. But you know what? I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been great growing with you, and I'm looking forward to doing an awful lot even more.
It's been a pleasure, Jim. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah.
And Happy New Year to all of you. I hope it's a real good one.
Same to everyone else,
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And I'm not going to say goodbye. I'm just going to say be seeing you.
Yaki da.
Yeah, I'm going to say we'll see you at 7 Spot. How's that?
Absolutely.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
I'm gonna kill this thing.
Yeah. Stay on, everybody. Cheers, bye.